Hey everybody out there in the YouTube universe, this is Mr. Movie, and in today's video we're going to be doing another top 5 list. If you watch my channel, you know I don't do top 10 lists by genre like most people do on YouTube. I do top 5 lists of movies that are in my collection by a particular actor or a particular director. In this case, it's going to be a director. For the film to be considered, it has to be obviously directed by this person, not just written by or produced by. It could be those as well, but it has to be directed by the person in question. Sometimes I do top 5 topical lists, different other sorts of things to keep it spicy, but no pun intended. Today we're sticking to the script. And on this video, I'm going to tell you the top 5 Guy Ritchie films that are in my collection. He doesn't have a lot of films, but I like this guy. He's a really good director. Tarantino is my favorite director, and this guy is like the British Tarantino. He gives you a really good picture of the London underground scene, mostly the underground criminal scene. That we don't, in America, we don't get to see as much. You get the culture, the slang, the different way they operate over there. I've picked up a lot of that stuff, just by watching films. And I have a good friend who lived in London for a long time. Shout out Julian. And we talk about this all the time. There's similarities and differences between United States and England, and especially, say places like New York and London, but there are a lot of differences, and I think that comes through in his films a lot. Now, not all of them, because they're not all about the same sort of thing, but in most of them, especially his best ones, which we will get into. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, now number 5 and number 4 are back-to-back the Sherlock Holmes movies. I put them 5 and 4 because I really liked them. 5 being the second one, 4 being the first one. Like I said, he doesn't have that many films, but I felt the need to do the list because I really do like the ones that he does have, and I think he deserves to get his own list. Now, Sherlock Holmes, everybody knows the story of Sherlock Holmes, but what he did with it, I think, is the best version I've seen of it, because he didn't modernize it so much in that it doesn't take place when it was supposed to. It's still a period piece, excuse me, but he modernized it in that he's not a stuffy old British man with the magnifying glass looking for clues and my good Watson, and what he did was, I mean, he got one of my favorite actors, Robert Downey Jr., to be him, and he's more of a he's still the genius. He still can put things together and pick up clues in a way that no other person could do. It's almost superhuman, but he's also a badass. And that's what I love about it. And that's, badass is a good word to describe a lot of Guy Ritchie movies. He takes that character and he keeps all the traditional stuff that you love about Sherlock Holmes, but he doesn't, make him where he's unrelatable and not exciting. This Sherlock Holmes will kick your ass. He's not ridiculous with it, but, he knows how to fight. He can defend himself, and he gets into a lot of hairy situations. And great action in these movies. Great action. They're very fast paced. Like it's like almost like you're inside of Sherlock Holmes's mind, because his mind is very fast paced, and he's very good at picking up things and solving stuff, and the way he puts stuff together, it's really cool. And the interaction with him and his right hand man, like you've always had, who's also a badass, you know what I mean? And it's really cool the way they play off of each other. And the two films, they're very different. They're the same setting and the same kind of idea, but what he has to figure out and what he's going up against are very different. And both films are amazing. I think the first one's a little better than the second, which is usually the case, but not much of a difference. They're both really good. I'd love for them to make a third one. I don't know if Downey Jr. would be into it, but hey, I hope so. But like I said, I really like the the way he has Sherlock Holmes as the Sherlock Holmes we know, but modernized in our minds of being more exciting and more of a hardcore character. You know what I mean? The other thing that's really great about these movies is the settings. I mean, the set pieces are amazing. You feel like you're in London in the 1800s, and it's like, you know, just this, you know, the Industrial Revolution just happened, and it's, you know, dirty and grimy and, you know, smoggy and smoky, and you just feel that throughout the whole thing. And you know, great acting, of course. You know, Watson's played by Jude Law, and like I said, Sherlock Holmes is Robert Downey Jr. And just kick-ass adventure, mystery, crime-solving adventures. Both movies really great. 5 and 4, the two Sherlock Holmes movies. Coming in at number 3, the one that started it all for him, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. This one set the stage for what came after it and what you kind of think about when you think about Guy Ritchie movies. You know, you got, it's very Tarantino-esque, I will say. I think that's why I really like him, because Tarantino's my favorite director. He has a bunch of different stories going on at once, but they all converge. They're all centered around, you know, one setting, but all these different people with all these different stories involved in this one movie. And, you know, you have, he writes great characters, great dialogue, and cool interactions between them. And it's like, you know, you got, say, a bunch of different, for instance, let's say a bunch of different crews, and they're all trying to go after the same thing, say. That's a theme in a lot of his stuff. And each crew is very different, and you get time with them. They're developed, you know who they are, what they're about, and they just happen to intersect. You know, it's not just crew. I mean, you get individual characters as well, but, you know, they just happen to intersect because they're all in London, and they're all in that seedy underworld. And, you know, it's just all these different crazy things happen. You know, the movie is basically this one, you follow this one main crew, and they're trying their best to make it. And, you know, they kind of pool their money to get behind their friend who's really good at cards. And the big gangster in the town does some shady stuff and is able to take all of his money by cheating. And then they have to pay him back in 5 days because he lends him money to continue the game. So now they're in the hat. And it's just them trying to get out of it by doing criminal stuff, but it pulls in all these different other elements of that same criminal world, and it's just a mess. All these crazy things happen to them and happen to the other characters, and, you know, there's shootouts, it's just craziness that's going on. There's drugs involved, you know, the crime, different people trying to, you know, get different things and get money from different places to do this and that. It's just all crazy stuff, but it makes sense. All the interaction comes together at the end, and they're like the last ones standing. And then there's a kind of cliffhanger thing at the end that it just drives you crazy. Great movie. Set it off pretty much for Guy Ritchie, and set the stage of kind of how he does his films. In that vein, the next two movies are very much like that, but they're even better. And coming to number 2, Rock and Roller. Great cast, great soundtrack. That's another thing. Like Tarantino, he has great soundtracks, and the characters in this movie are really cool too. And it's basically, you're following a set of a few different stories going on, but again, they all intersect. A rock and roller is kind of like their word for like a badass, I guess you could say, like a badass street guy, you know, that you know, gets into all kind of crazy stuff. You know, my favorite character is the guy that's on the cover. He's a rock star, but he's a junkie. And, you know, he's really smart and like philosophical, but he's also a nut job. And you know, you follow him and you find out, like his stepfather is the main crime guy who's trying to get like this build, well, the stadium, actually, like a soccer stadium built for these Russians. And he has all the political and criminal ties to get it done. And the Russian guy has a painting that he gives to him, and it's worth a lot to him, and it gets stolen, and it ends up in the character I was saying, it ends up in his hands, and they're looking for the painting. But then there's this other crew who is made up of all these great actors right before they kind of blew up, like Tom Hardy, Gerard Butler, Idris Elba, like all these great British actors. They're in this one crew, and they run their little schemes, and they intersect with the guy who's trying, the main crime guy, and then his stepson is the rock guy, and they're all just trying to kind of chase this same money, and then get it together. It's almost hard to explain, really. Like, you have to watch it to really get how cool it is and what it's really about. It's hard to almost explain his movies, sort of a little bit like Tarantino's movies, where things happen out of order, and some things you see happened in the past that and it ties into stuff that happens in the future, and not like time travel, but I mean, like, something that happened 2 weeks ago, they'll show you first, and it affects something you just saw. And it's very much like that. And it's really cool. Great dialogue, very quotable, and you get really immersed in that world, and you feel like you're a part of it. And the way that it's shot and directed, it's really cool, because like the parts where they're in a club and you hear the music, where you feel like you're in there, like by the bar dancing or something, and the parts where like he's in this drug den and going through withdrawals or whatever, you kind of feel like you feel sick and you feel kind of dirty. You get that gritty feeling, and you get the feeling of all the scenes pretty much. Really, really, I love the way that he sets the different moods and tones in his films, and you see the different actors and the different characters kind of like adjusting to the different scenarios that they're put in. And there's a lot of like cool action stuff, and but not like an action movie, but like shootouts and fist fights and stuff, brawls and all this kind of stuff. And it's just a really, really cool movie. You should check it out. You should check out all of these. But Rock and Roller #2, just a really, the word I would use is very cool. Just a very cool movie. Talking about cool, one of my favorite movies of all time, and his #1 without a doubt is Snatch. Oh man, this was in my Brad Pitt list. Snatch is just an amazing, amazing film. Beginning to end, it's his masterpiece. It's his Pulp Fiction, let's say. The list of actors that are in this is just phenomenal. And this one centers basically around a big, big diamond. And all these different characters at one point or another interact with the diamond. Not necessarily hands-on, but it affects their life in some way. Like, the main character, him and his partner, they're boxing promoters. And they kind of get into it financially with the big bad boss of this particular movie, of London in this one, Bricktop. Bricktop's really cool. He and what happens is they kind of get into him for not throwing a fight when it was supposed to, which is Brad Pitt's character, who they got to fight, and he won't throw the fight, and then now they owe him, and Brad Pitt's character is a gypsy, and he's off to the side, and he doesn't listen to anybody. And now that they owe him, there's another whole side set of where, like, Benicio del Toro's in it. His character is sent from America to get this diamond. They rob a diamond, and then they're trying to sell it. And then in trying to sell it, they're hired by a Russian. These three guys are hired by a Russian to rob that diamond. And then when they get into the big bad for money, they have to, you know, tell him about the diamond. Then now he's interested in the diamond. And, you know, so like it's all these different characters having to try to get, you know, either in or out of trouble. And what I mean by get in trouble is get themselves involved with this diamond and get their hands on it. But what I mean by getting out of trouble is that either they owe money, or they have the diamond and people are coming after them for it, or they have to do a job for someone else because now they're in trouble with them. And it's just a big revolving door of all these different intersecting stories. And it's just amazing. From beginning to end, it's just nonstop, quotable, great scenes, great acting, great directing. It pulls you in. You feel like you're a part of it, like, you know, you're a side character, and it's just viewing all these different things. And it's just such a great movie. It's so well done. It's almost the perfect movie. I mean, I say that about a couple of movies, and it's rare, but this one, it deserves it. It's almost the perfect movie because it has every single element that you could possibly want. And it's entertaining from beginning to end. One of my personal favorite movies, and definitely my favorite Guy Ritchie, coming in number 1, Snatch. So to recap, 5 and 4 are the 2 Sherlock Holmes movies. Number 3 is Lock, Stock, and 2 Smoking Barrels. Number 2, Rock and Roller. And number 1 is Snatch. So that's the top 5 Guy Ritchie movies. So if you like Guy Ritchie, let me know. If you have a different order, or you have other movies of his that you like that you think I should have included, let me know in the comments. If you like this video and my content, please subscribe, and I would appreciate it. Hit the notification bell so when I drop new videos, you get alerted and check those out. If you like it. Share it with your other movie nut friends. Put them on to Guy Ritchie if they don't know about him. And like I said, check out his films if you haven't. Very cool. That's the one word I would say. Very cool. That being said, this is Mr. Movie signing off, and I will see you again next time at the Flicks.